Okay, it's Monday, January 12th of the new year, 2015. Our next series in our interviews is with Larry Conrad, who was the activities director at Western Dubuque. And, okay, Larry, so let's take you back to high school days and go from there.
Okay.
Background.
Grew up in northeast Iowa, went to Little Cedar High School. They reorganized Osage in 1960, but graduated and went to Upper Iowa University. Got my degree there in social studies and physical education. Played basketball my first 2 years. Played baseball for 4 years. Graduated in 1963. My first teaching job was at Union Whitten High School, north of Marshalltown, and I coached baseball, basketball, junior high, girls softball, taught social studies. Was there from 1963 to 1965. And then took a position at Bellevue Community Schools in Bellevue. Was there from 1965 to 1973. Coached social study coached basketball, baseball, track, girls golf, boys golf. Taught social studies and phys ed. We left there in 1973, went to North Iowa West Union, coached basketball, taught social studies from 1973 to 1978, North Iowa West Union. Decided to get out of education and had a chance to buy a sporting goods store in Dyersville. And so we bought the store in Dyersville called Dyersville Sports. My wife and I were owners, workers, etc., etc. We had that until a position at Western Dubuque opened up as activities director, and so I interviewed and got the position. So I was at Western Dubuque from 1985 to 2005 and retired in 2005.
So you put in 20 years, basically, as activities director.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the early challenges you might have had when you started as activities director? Remember anything specifically, or?
Well, I followed the footsteps of Bob Howard, so everything was pretty well organized. And I called on Bob a lot because I had a background in business, running my own sporting goods store, so I was pretty familiar with that. But I think one of the biggest challenges that we had was Western Dubuque at the time, 1985, was not in a conference.
Yeah.
And so we kind of hit and miss where we could get a game. Where we could get a game, we got a game, etc., etc. So I think that was our biggest challenge, not being in a conference. Originally, Western Dubuque was in the Big Bend Conference, and that kind of disbanded, and then it kind of formed again. I think it was reformed like in 1987. So I think that's the biggest thing that we had going for us is, trying to get in a conference and get some loyalties and some rivalries going.
That was 85 was sort of a landmark year for the girls basketball team. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I know in 1985 the girls still played 6-on-6, and they went to the state tournament. And I don't recall. Was that 85, 86 when they went?
Oh, I think maybe it was 84, 85.
Could have been 84, 85, yeah. And I started in the fall of 85.
Right.
But that was the first year they went to the state tournament, 1980, 84, 85. 6-on-6, and then in 1987 the girls switched to 5-on-5, and they won the state 5-on-5 state tournament at that time in 87.
You want to talk a little bit about what you recall, at least as far as transition from 6-on-6 to 5-on-5 girls, as far as West Dubuque was concerned?
I think you had, back in the time when they first started 5-on-5, you had the option, you could play 5-on-5 or you could play 6-on-6. I think they just, I think we maybe started with the younger kids played 5-on-5 right away, and then really the first year of 5-on-5 was like 1987. So it was, back in the day, everybody remembers the 6-on-6, the 3 girls, 3 boys, 3 girl forwards at one end, 3 guards at the other end. And I remember, as you do, state tournaments were hard ticket to get because all the little towns closed up their doors and went to the state tournaments. But yeah, West Dubuque the first year was, I think, 86 or 87 when they won the first year 5-on-5 and won the state tournament in 87.
Was that? Do you recall, as far as the public or the fans and parents, how they felt about that transition? Do you remember at all anything about that? Or
I don't think we got any opposition. It was just a thing that was coming, and it seemed like all the small schools wanted to stay 6-on-6, but it was just a coming trend that you go to 5-on-5 or you probably don't get a schedule to play.
Right. The other thing was that I remember, at least, is the attitude that the Athletic Association were very resistive to switching to 5-on-5. And I remember playing the championship game in 87, winning that championship game. And then it seemed like they had the awards, but it was very brief, and they kind of kicked us off the floor. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Because the 6-on-6 championship was after us, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
And so I recall that aspect of it. I recall, how about do you remember the excitement after the girls won the semifinal game, and what happened after that?
Yeah, it was, everybody wanted tickets. I remember that. I went up to we weren't supposed to win anyhow. Waterloo Columbus was supposed to be the state champion, and they had a coat picked out for their coach, etc., etc. But anyhow, I went up to the Girls Association and got tickets, and I came around the corner to go downstairs and start distributing them, and it looked like a pack of wolves were down there waiting for me. Everybody wanted tickets because everybody from Epworth to Farley to Rickardsville to Holy Cross, 14 different towns were down there. We were well represented. Everybody wanted tickets, so it was just like a feeding frenzy to get a ticket. So West Dubuque was represented back in 87 just like they are today. Just everybody gets behind the team.
Probably one of the most unifying experiences the district had ever been associated with up to that time. As far as people from all the little communities, didn't make any difference where you're from, but they were there, and you don't get that experience very often.
Yes, right.
What about some of the other sports that during that period of time, football was sort of had a downswing at that time, as I recall?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, same with state championships. The football won the 3A state championship in 201, and the boys basketball 3A in 201. So that's 3 state championships in a 4-year period. But
back at that time, though, it was not. The program was sort of down.
Right.
It seemed like, as I'm trying to remember that period of time, that participation was always really good. Don't you think, as far as the team, the football program?
Right. I know I did a study back then, and it seemed like I would say of our student body, and back then I think we had 550 or something like that. I think I did a survey, and I think 80% of our student body were out for some activity. I mean, not only athletics, but speech, band, whatever. So I mean, that's a pretty good rate that our kids are well represented. And, I mean, they're student athletes, I guess is what you say. That they're involved in everything.
I remember. It seemed like I recall a football program always had on the varsity level. They usually would pull in about 20 juniors and 20 seniors, basically a 40-man squad, and that's pretty well continued, I think, through the years. So that speaks well for the program, and speaks well for the coaches that we had during that period of time, because those guys were there for a lot of time previous, and then continued during the years that we were with the program.
Right.
So, but that was also during a period of time when your kids were in high school and participating. What memories do you have of those years?
I know, our daughter Christy was in junior high, played volleyball, got to high school, played golf, was a cheerleader, in band, and son Scott participated in everything except football. Mom and Dad wouldn't let him play football, and we still haven't heard the end of that. But anyhow, he played basketball, baseball, tennis, golf, and Mike, his senior year, Coach Gilbert talked to him about coming out for football and just doing the kicking, but that didn't last long. He played receiver and played basketball, golf, tennis, baseball. So they were in a lot of activities.
Those were some good years too for some of the teams, especially. We were visiting recently about the year that we were. I'm trying to remember the sequence of coaches, but we were kind of really searching for a coach. I think like in 1991, and you were able to pull back to a friend of yours that finally showed up and helped us out, right?
Yeah, Coach Bob White. Went to Upper Iowa with him, and I happened to be at the state basketball tournament, and turned around, and right behind me is Bob White. So we started talking, and I said casually, we're looking for a head basketball coach, and it kind of dropped at that time. And
was he coaching that year? Someplace else or not?
I think he was out of coaching. Yeah, I think he was out of coaching.
Okay.
He was out of Iowa Falls. He was in Iowa Falls for a long time. Anyhow, I came home from the state tournament, and I looked in my rear view mirror, and there's Coach Bob White behind me, and I said, "What are you doing here?" I'm applying for this head basketball job. So I told Mr. Knudsen, our principal, and Bob Howard, but at my house I have probably one of the top 5 coaches in the state. He wants a head job, so I said, probably not going to win any sportsmanship award, but he's going to win games for us. So we hired Bob, and he stayed here 2 years and didn't have a teaching job here, so he moved on to North Scott. But I remember probably the last game he coached, we went into senior, and I think we were playing Senior or Wallard or somebody, and we gave him a good battle. I don't think we beat him, but we gave him a heck of a battle. So that was kind of a.
I remember the thing that he had Bill Fleming's number, because I think we beat Maquoketa both times that year.
Yeah.
As I recall.
Yeah.
But Bob was pretty much a unique individual.
Yeah.
And a fine coach.
Mm-hmm.
Is he back in Iowa Falls, or?
He's back. He went to North Scott. I think his temper got him in trouble down there, but he won some games down there, but then he got out of it. And I think he went back to Iowa Falls. He coached at, I want to say, Alden,
I think that's on his record.
Yeah, Alden for a couple of years, but I think he's back in Iowa Falls. He's not coaching now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you have some memories of some of the other coaches that you interacted with over those years? Your relationship with some of them, like, well, let's say with Tom Gilbert, of course.
Yeah, when I came here, I had 16 years of coaching experience. I had run my own business, or our business, for 6 years, so I felt like I was a veteran. But I started working with our coaching staff, and talk about Don Hermson. He was here for a long time, and Tom Kilberg, Larry McCready, Bill Hafer, Stu Sass. I know I'm going to forget some names, but they were all veteran coaches, and they just did their own thing, and you had to give them some guidance, but you never had to worry about them not showing up. They always put a good program on the floor or on the field, and they just did a great job. And they were here for the duration. They weren't here for 1 or 2 years, then moving on. They were here until they retired. So
made it a lot easier.
Yeah. Yep.
One of the things I always remember is as far as problems or issues revolving around athletics or activities was the maintenance department, and the amount of cooperation we got, and sometimes did not get as far as especially the outdoor fields.
Yes. Yeah.
It was sometimes a real problem.
And I think the coaches, again, a credit to them, they just took it upon themselves. We had an ag line track and a homemade chalk limer that Larry McCready and Steve Finley and Jerry Ross and Don Hermson and whoever else would go up and line the track themselves with that old limer. The baseball field coaches would just soon get on the tractor and drag the diamond themselves or line the diamond themselves and know it was going to get done. And Tom Wickham and Westy coached tennis, and they'd come over and get the courts ready because they were in bad shape. So again, credit to the coaches. They just took it upon themselves to go out and do the job rather than worry about somebody else doing it.
That's interesting. You mentioned Tom Wickham and tennis, and I could never quite understand why during all that period of time that we couldn't get some tennis courts constructed. And it's still an issue today, but I think that's changing. I think something's going to happen as far as a tennis facility.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one of the problems is the fact that the campus itself is pretty much used up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. Why didn't they add more land over a period of time? And did not. And they're still stuck with the only thing that saved us was when the highway went through.
Yeah.
Got that extra property out to the south. We wouldn't have had that. I don't know what we would have done.
Yeah.
And but that was the situation we were faced with back at that time. Of course, that's all changed now with the new facilities and that sort of thing. But
going back to tennis, it was we practiced and played at Divine Word Seminary, Epworth Elementary, Thunder Hills Country Club, Farley Park. It's just, the other team would come here and you'd have to shuffle them around.
yeah.
And just, again, a credit to the kids and the coaches that tennis survived with no on-site facilities.
What about soccer? When did that get?
I would say, I think I wrote this down.
Is that like
Yeah, I had, we created,
late 99, 80, yeah.
I had approximately 201, 202. That soccer, boys and girls soccer, came in, and again, fortunately we had the practice fields that we could play on, and I think now they play on the football field, but we had to make our own soccer fields on the practice football field, but at least, and that's still going strong, so credit to the coaches and the kids for that, and the facilities. We have great facilities now, but back in the day when we were starting, our basketball team practiced at West Dubuque High School, Drexler Elementary, Epworth Elementary, Divine Word Seminary, 6:30 a.m. and as late as 9 p.m. Credit the kids and coaches and parents that would bring their kids in at 6:30 practice and 9 o'clock at night practice.
It's just my main memory of that is in November when we were always faced with the end of the first quarter parent-teacher conferences and the start of basketball practices.
Yeah.
And so we always had the conferences in the gym, which was fine, except we had all those tables and chairs set up for the different teachers and their stations, and so then it was over with at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening. We'd have to take all of them down, put them away so they could practice in the morning, and then we have to do the same thing the next day.
Yeah.
So that was, I don't know, I'd hate to guess how many tables and chairs we've stacked over the years, but
Yeah, speaking about the old gym, that's what we had, is the old one gym, and main gym was used for athletic practices and games, prom, sock hops, community activities, band concerts, plays and musicals, all school events. Stage was used as a weight room. Had to move the weights from the wrestling room to the stage, back to the wrestling room. So, and the seating capacity was, I would say, 650 compared to the new gym now at 1,800. So, we did the best we could, and we survived, I guess.
Well, yeah, that was pretty much it. We survived. I remember talking to Don Hermson earlier this fall, and he remembered because he graduated 62, I think, from Cedar Falls, and got a job right away at West Dubuque. But he remembered his parents talking about the formation of the district back in the late 50s. And I think it was 60 when they had the first vote as far as organizing who would be in the district. Well, they had to present this information to the public in whatever ways they did. But he said the thing I always remembered was the fact that he said that they were told they would build a high school. The most kids that would ever go there would be 250 kids because all their other kids went to the Catholic schools.
Yeah.
And 250 at the most, and that was the way it was built. And within 5 years, they were inundated with an extra 500 or 600 students. And so that's when that all began, as far as the purchase of the portable classrooms. And we suffered through that, the 70s, 80s, 90s, until we finally passed some bond issues.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting time. But at any rate, a lot of memorable experiences. One of the things I remember particularly is the 2001 we won the boys basketball championship. But before we got into the tournament, we had a big game with West Delaware. Remember that as far as how that happened, or what happened in regard to it? We didn't play the home game at Epple. We played it at Dyersville.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Because, we couldn't go. I remember going back to 94. We were like 19-0, number one in the state. And our first round opponent was West Delaware. And we had the home court advantage because we won, I guess seeding at that time. So we had the home court advantage. And we hold 650 people, and we had heard that West Delaware people were going to come at 3 o'clock. So we closed the doors. I think we opened the doors like at 5:30, and the gym was full at 6 o'clock, and the game was at 7 o'clock or whatever. But so we knew playing West Delaware back in 2001, we could never handle it. So we thought, well, let's see if Beckman will let us use their facilities, rent their facilities, or whatever. So yeah, they were very gracious, and they let us. I think they probably used it. We probably used it for nothing. I think they had concessions or whatever. But that was a great turnout, and I'm glad we moved it over there because everybody got in.
We must have. I'm assuming we played it on an off night, maybe like a Thursday instead.
Could
of
have
Friday.
been, yeah. Could have been.
Because the other issue would have been officials, obviously.
Yeah.
So that worked out really good.
Yeah.
I remember spending most of that early time in that game standing by the ticket gate because some of our students had produced some shirts that were offensive.
Yeah.
And I guess that was the Beckman game. That wasn't.
Yeah, that was the Beckman. Yeah.
So anyway, they never showed up with anything. So. What about just recalling experiences as far as that 2001 week down in Des Moines with the team? Anything you recall about that time, staying with the team and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. There was going to be a lot of people there. So you kind of had to hide the kids because everybody wanted to talk to the kids, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we stayed out in West Des Moines, but somehow the fans got word of it. So we had kids in the lobbies, but our players were real gentlemen. Coaches took care of everything. We were able to get to the facilities okay. We had places to eat. After we won a game or two, we were looking for a place to practice, and I had a friend, Bill Harris, who was at Valley West Des Moines coach, so I got a hold of Bill, and we got the practice facility, so we went out and practiced before our final game, I think it was probably, and we were in the gym practicing, and our basketball team, they were pretty big. We had some big guys, good football players. But anyhow, I was talking to Bill, and the football coach came in from Valley, and Valley has a pretty good football team. But he came up and said, "Bill, who are these guys?" And I said, "Well, this is our basketball team. We're playing the finals tomorrow night. And we're just using your facility." He said, "I'll take about 10 of your basketball players. I'll put them on my football team." I said, they're good football players too. So he was just amazed how big and strong and they were great football players, but also great basketball players.
Well, actually, I don't remember how those games. We made the playoffs in football that fall in 2000, and. Of course, the next year we won the championship. But I thought, in my opinion, we had as good a team the year before in football. But I don't remember who we lost to. Was it in the Dome?
I think so.
I remember playing at Mount Pleasant, I think. Might have been one game played.
Yeah, I can't. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Did we win at Mount Pleasant? Then went to the Dome?
think that's the way it happened, but I wouldn't say for sure
Yeah, I don't know either for sure.
about that. But yeah, I just thought we were as good, equally as good the year before that. But the next year we won it, and football. So that was another memorable experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what, it's, I was so fortunate to have the Dome for those football playoffs. What other states have, they have at the same period of time. I think Wisconsin, they play in Camp Randall.
Camp Randall,
which is
I'm sure.
Outside, obviously.
I think South Dakota has a dome where.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's going into November and it's usually cold in Iowa at that time. Yeah. Let me talk a little bit. This is history, I guess, but the new facilities we have is second to none with two gymnasiums, the new wrestling rooms, locker rooms, athletic administrator's office, the lobby, concessions. I mean, like I said, to go from one gym to 3 gyms and be able to host events, state events, state POMs, state speech, show choir. It's just you can just do so many things, and more revenue coming in for Booster Club because of the concessions, and now the auditorium. That's another big plus.
Yeah. All I need is tennis courts.
Yeah, that's right.
It should be a pretty small ticket item.
Yeah.
I know that. I think what's going to happen is it is going to happen. I think. I've talked to Jeff a few times, and I think there was a little public pressure put on this past year with some newspaper stories.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been the football got kicked over the goalpost. Maybe that made it a possibility at least. Yeah. Any other memories you have as far as who you worked with? You worked with who all in the office there? Who was your secretary?
Yeah, Marilyn Byer. I started in '85. Marilyn was there, I think, until probably I think about 2010 or so. No, excuse me. About 2000, and then
your last year was
2005. Yes.
So somewhere in there, mine is 01, so she must have retired right between there sometime. I don't remember when it was.
Then Alice came at 2001 to 2005. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Patty Leibold in the office, Judy Berger,
Laura.
We had Laura. We had June Brandenburg. Had a good staff of people to work with, and Harold, Bob Howard, Dave Ziesmer, et cetera, et cetera. Good staff to work with.
Anything else you remember as far as experiences? How about your episode with the Gothic gal that
I don't want to go into that.
I thought that was funny.
No.
You never know what's going to walk through the door.
Yeah.
Anyway.